Good evening, I'm Monty Torres. Thank you for joining us tonight. The Garnet Fire, burning in the Sierra Nevada mountains northeast of Fresno, is in more than 49,000 acres tonight and still growing. You're looking at a Google Earth flyover animation of that fire and its location in relation to Fresno and the Central Valley. Sparked by a lightning strike August 24th, the fire so far remains only 14% contained, with roughly 2,200 personnel now battling to bring it under control. Fire officials say the Garnet Fire was active overnight, continuing the north and northwestern push fueled by continuous timber stands with lots of dead and downed trees from beetle kill and low humidity. The fire moved far and fast to the north with multiple spot fires jumping across the McKinley Grove Road. More on that in a moment. In the northwest, the fire burned to the containment lines between Fence Meadow and Nutmeg Saddle. On the eastern edge, firefighters have been actively working on the fire perimeter, preparing for strategic firing aerial resources, including heavy helicopters, very large air tankers supporting the suppression as conditions permit, laying down retardant of locations most advantageous to stopping or slowing the fire's progression. Now, regarding McKinley Grove that I mentioned and its giant sequoias, here's the latest from that location today.
Okay, this is the McKinley Grove currently. There is some fire. I believe in the top of that one I can hear popping over there.
The gentleman in the video goes on to point out several more sequoias with fire in their upper branches. The rare and irreplaceable sequoia tree is under assault again right now from the Garnet Fire, but hopefully firefighters can keep the damage from getting any worse as they work to contain those flames. We are in the third week now of the Garnet Fire burning in eastern Fresno County. And since the morning, 5 more zones were added to the evacuation order. That's on top of 3 more yesterday. This map shows the story. The areas circled are the newest areas now under evacuation warning, which includes the latest zones to be added: K26, K60, K61B, K76, and K165, all on the western edge, you can see there, of the fire's perimeter north of Pine Flat Lake. Southeast of Shaver Lake, the areas shaded in yellow south of the Kings River also remain under evacuation warning at this moment. The area in dark red is the fire's perimeter as of the last update. Time-lapse video shared by the Sierra National Forest yesterday showing just how big that plume of smoke got. And where there is fire, there is always smoke, and lots of it. Check out this dramatic video captured by the Alert California camera at Fence Meadow Lookout. You can see the flames get closer to the lookout as that fire moved westward Sunday afternoon. The fire even visible from Fresno. This was captured from our Fox 26 Skycam above our studio here near the airport. We're about 35 miles away from the perimeter of that fire. It's not just our cameras catching the fire, yours too. Fox 26 viewer Aaron Alba shared this photo with us from the Garnet Fire via Chime In, showing the huge glowing smoke cloud the fire was spitting out. Fernando Hurtado and Kelly Cuevas also showed the fire looking almost like a volcano erupting, as seen from Port Lear last night. Rosie Cardenas caught this view from Sanger, and Wendy Wickelman-Debus from East Clovis. Meanwhile, Valley Assemblyman David Tangipa brought us this view from overhead and looking down on the Garnet Fire on a recent flight. Tangipa went on to say how his heart breaks for our communities, including the community of Chinese Camp, destroyed by the fire, and the families displaced. He encouraged everyone in high-risk areas to have a plan ready and to contact him if you know someone in need of help at the email address you see right there on your screen. That's assemblymember.tangipa@assembly.ca.gov. Meanwhile, the salt fire continues to burn in southwest Fresno County, just south of Coalinga. Here's time lapse from the nearest camera. So far, it's burned more than 25,000 acres since sparking last Tuesday and is now 35% contained. Over the weekend, the fire crossed into Kings County. Monday afternoon, zones P18A and P27B were taken out of evacuation warning status. Zones P18B1 and P27A2 have been upgraded out of evacuation orders and into evacuation warnings. And zones P18B2, P18B3, and P27A1 remain under evacuation orders. Those are the areas shaded pink. Yellow shaded areas are under a warning right now, and the deeper red is the fire's current perimeter. Fox 26 Chief Meteorologist Chris Kuiper was up in the vicinity of the Garnet Fire today. He spoke to firefighters about how the weather was helping or hampering their efforts. Chris, what did you learn?
Well, Monty, I learned that while Garnet Fire was very active yesterday, firefighters had that in their plans. They had contingency efforts or thoughts for the fire there, and they also were ready for the possibility of breaching those lines. They have backup plans beyond that as well. Here, take a look. All right, so the fire has made it to Dinky Creek now, yes?
In areas, yes, it has hit the creek and crossed it.
Okay. How much of a threat is there to the city of Shaver Lake right now?
The fire growth, you kind of look at this map, was yesterday, and you can see where it's kind of grown today in comparison. Specifically kind of north of, now it's well north of this established power line here. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of get a decent visual representation of the growth there. That being said, we didn't want it. We didn't plan for it to be, part of our plan in the growth. We wanted to keep it obviously down here, but it wasn't a real shock. But yet you start looking at, the fuels in there and just kind of the weather and what it came through and what it did to that area is it wasn't a surprise to us.
Yesterday, when the fire got a little squirrely there, mm-hmm. That was still to be expected for the most part.
So just as that weather comes in, sometimes the wind comes in. The RH is definitely a factor in the fuels that we're seeing. So that RH, make the fuels a little bit less dry. Sure. And so the drier the fuels, the easier the fire is to not only establish if you've got a spot, or the growth of the fire is going to be a little quicker with those lower relative humidities. So if we can get that storm in and it kind of puts a lid or kind of puts a damper on it, that would be good for us. And those are the days that when we have that weather that's kind of working on our side and working in our favor, we try to take advantage of those, go direct to where we can, really reinforce some control lines that are put in place and do all we can to take advantage of those conditions when they present. This line here on I guess this is kind of your western flank or side of the fire. They've got some real good established line there. Mm-hmm. It goes up and you see kind of the hash marked lines here. This is getting up into the SoCal Edison land. Mm-hmm. That being said, this line's been established. They've been working on this, from what I understand, for the last 2-3 years. Mm. So this is very well established, well defensible line. This is it's a long fought battle. I say we can lose a battle, we just don't want to lose the war. And so literally, like, every acre of this fire loss is a big deal.
Jay had a little sneak peek at the forecast there, talking about cooler temperatures and increased humidity in the forecast, which certainly will help out the firefighters. And again, I know a lot of folks in Shaver Lake are certainly very concerned about this fire, but again, firefighters have a number of different contingency lines there between the fire and Shaver Lake. So they say pump the brakes on the panic button. It does look scary for sure, but they still feel confident in being able to contain this fire here before it reaches Shaver Lake. As far as taking a look at the fire today, it was active out there. You see plumes of smoke kind of shooting up there for a while as the fire goes into certain little ridges and whatnot, and everything aligns up with the slopes and the wind and everything. You see these little flares, and then it kind of calms down for a little while, and then you see additional little flares happen there as well a little later on or so. Certainly active. And notice we're getting the oxygen into the base of the fire here. We're expelling the smoke out of the top. We're getting that efficient engine, if you will, of the fire there, which is really letting it go here. Earlier in the week here, when the fire was not really doing much, there was so much smoke down at the surface, and it was just kind of choking the fire there, basically. Speaking of choking the fire, we'll talk about the dense smoke advisory that's still in effect for the fire coming up here in a little bit, and we'll talk more about our air quality report as well coming up.